Research proposals. Ever feel like you're just kind of rolling the dice with those?
Well, there's a way to tip the scales in your favor.
Ooh, I'm listening.
It's all about managing risk.
So being proactive instead of reactive.
Exactly. When you write a proposal, you're making a promise, saying you can deliver.
Sure, but research is unpredictable, right? How do you guarantee anything?
You can't guarantee, but you can prepare. That's where risk management comes in, thinking about potential problems beforehand.
Okay, so like anticipating those bumps in the road.
Yeah. Like, what if you're using a specific data set and it suddenly becomes unavailable? Or there's a quality issue?
Sounds like that could be a project killer.
It could be. But good risk management addresses that. Maybe finding alternative data sources, having a plan to really validate the data, or even adjusting your research question.
So you're covered no matter what.
Exactly. And it's not just data. Think about funding, timeline delays, even changes in regulations. Those can all impact your research.
Okay, so it's like a 360-degree view of potential problems. What then?
Then you come up with mitigation strategies. Those are the steps you take to reduce the chances of those risks happening or to minimize the impact if they do.
Can you give me an example?
Sure, let's talk funding.
Yeah.
If you're relying on a single grant, that's a big risk. What if the grant falls through or gets cut?
Uh-oh, not good.
Not good at all. So a good strategy would be diversifying your funding sources, explore other grants, maybe look into industry partnerships, even crowdfunding.
So you're not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Right. And what about timeline delays? Those happen all the time in research.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So you got to build in buffer time. Don't make your timeline super tight. Account for potential delays in data collection, analysis, or just unexpected things popping up.
Giving yourself some wiggle room.
Yep. And communication is another key mitigation strategy. Stay in close contact with everyone involved, collaborators, mentors, stakeholders. Keep them in the loop if there are challenges, and be upfront about potential delays.
Makes sense. Keeps those small problems from becoming huge problems.
Exactly. It also shows your funders that you're on top of things, even when things don't go as planned.
Good point. So we've got our risks and our mitigation strategies. But what if something totally unexpected happens, despite all that? Like a critical piece of equipment breaks down or, I don't know, another pandemic throws a wrench into data collection.
Well, that's where contingency planning comes in. It's your emergency plan.
Plan B.
Exactly. Contingency plans are all about adapting, figuring out alternative approaches when your original plan hits a major snag.
So being able to adjust on the fly.
Exactly. Like, imagine you're doing a study that involves in-person interviews, and then boom, another pandemic. No more face-to-face interaction.
That would stop things in their tracks.
Unless you have a contingency plan. You could switch to online interviews, maybe use video conferencing, or find some other remote data collection methods.
So you're not just throwing in the towel, you've already got a way to keep things moving.
Right. And a good contingency plan has details. You know, it's not just like, oh, we'll do online interviews. You got to think it through. What platform are you using? How will you keep the data secure? Do you need to adjust the interview itself for a virtual setting? All that.
Yeah, so it's like a roadmap for when things go off-road. Are there other scenarios where these contingency plans are super important?
Oh, yeah, tons. Think about your methodology. What if your initial plan just isn't feasible anymore?
Like what?
Maybe you hit some ethical snags you didn't anticipate, or the technology you were banking on becomes obsolete.
Oof, that'd be a setback.
Big time. So your contingency plan would have some backup methodologies, other ways to answer those research questions. Maybe you have to switch from a quantitative approach to qualitative or adjust your sample size.
And I'm guessing timelines often need adjusting too.
Oh, absolutely. Delays are practically guaranteed in research. So build that flexibility into your timeline from the start. Give yourself some buffer time.
So if one part takes longer, it doesn't derail the whole thing.
Exactly. And don't forget about people. What if someone on your research team suddenly can't continue?
Yeah, if they're leading a crucial part, that could be a problem.
For sure. That's where a succession plan comes in. You've already figured out who takes over their responsibilities or how you'd find a replacement.
So you're planning for the research itself, but also for anything that could happen to the people doing it.
Thinking holistically, that's what makes a project resilient no matter what happens.
Okay, this is all making a lot of sense, but I gotta ask, isn't this a ton of planning? Researchers are busy people. Is it really worth all that time?
It's definitely a fair question, but I think the answer is a big yes. You're putting so much into your research already. Time, energy, often money. Doesn't it make sense to protect that investment? Be prepared.
I guess so. But some researchers might say, All this planning makes things too rigid, stifles creativity.
I hear that, but risk management and contingency planning don't have to be like that. In fact, they can actually boost creativity.
Really? How so?
When you're forced to think about challenges and different approaches, it opens your mind up. You might stumble on innovative solutions or new research directions you wouldn't have considered otherwise.
Turning those what-ifs into opportunities.
Exactly. And let's be real, research is rarely a straight line. There are always unexpected twists and turns. Having a solid risk management plan means you can navigate those with confidence, not panic.
Instead of freaking out, you can just pull out your plan and be like, all right, we got this.
Exactly. That confidence is huge, both for you and for the people funding and collaborating with you. It shows you're taking things seriously, you're prepared, you have a plan to succeed no matter what.
Building trust, showing professionalism.
Absolutely. And in the world of research funding, that can make all the difference.
This has been super helpful. So to recap, we talked about identifying risks, mitigating them, and creating contingency plans for when things go really wrong. And it's not just about avoiding problems, it's about confidence, creativity, and showing our funders that we're on top of it.
You got it. Essential skills for any researcher who wants to do high-quality, impactful work.
But I feel like there's one more piece to this puzzle. Something else about risk management that's really important.
You're picking up on it. There's one more crucial aspect, and it's all about how you frame this in your proposal.
Okay, tell me more. How do we actually communicate all this to the people reviewing our proposals?
It's not enough to just list the risks and say, don't worry, we have a plan. You've got to weave your risk management approach into the whole proposal.
So it's not a separate section, it's integrated.
Exactly. For example, let's say your study involves collecting some sensitive data from participants. Right away, you've got a potential risk. Data security and privacy.
Yeah, that's a big one these days.
Huge. So instead of just mentioning it as a risk, you weave it into your methodology. You explain exactly how you'll de-identify that data, how you'll store it securely, and the steps you're taking to protect confidentiality.
Showing them you're not just aware of the risk, but you're already addressing it in your research design.
Exactly. Same thing with potential timeline delays. If there's a chance of that happening, build it into your proposed timeline from the get-go.
So be upfront about it.
Yeah. Honesty and transparency are key. Remember, the people reviewing your proposal, they're experienced researchers too. They know research is unpredictable. They want to see that you've thought it through, that you're prepared for challenges, that you have a plan to succeed, even when things don't go perfectly.
Risk management isn't just about protecting our research. It's about building trust with our funders.
You got it. It's about showing you're responsible, reliable, someone they can trust to manage resources well and deliver on what you promise.
This has been eye-opening. So to wrap things up, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away?
I'd say this. When you write a research proposal, don't just focus on what you want to achieve. Think about what could stop you. Embrace those what-if scenarios and use them to make your research stronger.
By identifying potential risks, mitigating them, and having those contingency plans ready to go.
Exactly. A well-crafted risk management plan, it's like a safety net. You can take calculated risks knowing you've got a plan to handle whatever comes up.
And it shows your funders you're prepared, proactive, and ready to succeed.
Well said. Risk management isn't about eliminating risk entirely. It's about managing it so you can do your research with confidence and reach your goals.
Awesome advice. Thanks for sharing your expertise with us today. I think our listeners are going to have a whole new perspective on this.
My pleasure. It's something I'm really passionate about, and I hope it helps researchers feel more confident and resilient in their work.
And to all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us for this look at risk management in research proposals. We hope you found it valuable and will use these strategies in your own work. Until next time, happy researching.